only 9 people, but my entire world is right here in this picture. And I have no idea how to save it alone, but you know how to save them.
Hello and welcome back to Nerddom. My name is Matt, and today we are finally going to be talking about Marvel's one and only entry into the movie theaters this year, Deadpool and Wolverine. Now, this is going to be a spoiler-filled review, so if you haven't watched it and you do care about spoilers, please check anybody else out that is not doing spoilers. And trust me, some of these cameos, twists, turns, you do not want them spoiled for you. Now, I did watch all of the trailers beforehand. I probably shouldn't have, unfortunately. So going into it with a little bit of expectations based off those trailers is probably a never good idea, but I did. And I was really hoping that this was going to be a movie that, talks a little bit more seriously about Logan, about Deadpool. And while there are some portions of that, there are little bits of that, I can say that overall it is probably more likened to a comedy than anything. Sure, the action is actually really good. I think the action may be my favorite out of the 3 Deadpool movies. And this is finally a chance for the Wolverine to let his claws out for real. He gets to decimate people like you've never seen on the screen. And I am happy for that, 100%. I'm also very happy to see that Marvel is taking the reins, pulling the reins back a little bit, and also laughing at themselves. Now, there are some parts that makes fun of the MCU, of Marvel, of Phase 4 in particular. Deadpool says to Wolverine at one point, "Welcome to the MCU, you kind of joined at a low point." Like, is that really Marvel saying we know? So I'm kind of double on this one. I think it's funny. I think it's true that it is a low point for Marvel, and to have Wolverine, the X-Men kind of come into this universe right now, it's kind of like we have to, because nothing else is working. But on the same note, this kind of takes away all of the work that the other creators have done for these other movies, the mainline or other MCU movies. Is that really Marvel saying, yeah, we know it's shit and we still gave it to you in the first place? Like, that's kind of where I'm at. It's a joke, but would Marvel really let them say that? I don't know, man. I've been up for a long time and I'm really tired. Before I go too far off track, let's talk about some positives. There is some, like I said, great action. The jokes, while some are laugh a minute, really big surprises, really big jokes and payoffs, there are other times where it's just too much. Too much. Literally, you hear Logan say, "Shut the fuck up," so many times. I'm thinking that is myself and a lot of the audiences. Now, it's a Deadpool movie, I get it, but it's a lot. I feel like there are more jokes in this movie, and I've only seen it once. Repeat viewings on Disney Plus in about 4 months is definitely going to happen. But I do think that there are more jokes in this movie than in other movies. Now, like I said, that's kind of like a half-half. The jokes are sometimes amazing, sometimes cringe. They are always high school humor, college humor per se. Very lowbrow. And here's some examples for mature audiences only. Gay, anal, cum shot, all this stuff. Bunch of things. It's all there. And while sure, I was laughing, I think it's okay to let the hair down once in a while. And these jokes sometimes were hitting with the audience. But at a certain point, I do lose a little bit of sympathy for Wade, for Deadpool. Because there are some times when he pulls it all back and is serious about the people in the picture. And those are the good moments. That was a good moment. in the car. That was a great moment. The moment with them just talking, that was great. And then it turns into another fight. This would be their second fight, I believe, which is, I think the fights are, as again, amazing. I think the fights are really cool. Like I said, we finally get to see Wolverine again, or do stuff like this, which is awesome. And Hugh Jackman as Logan, as Wolverine, brings in a good performance. I really did feel for him in those certain moments when he's talking to X-23. And by the way, I think X-23, Daphne Keane, did a great job in this, better than Acolyte. Just gonna say, maybe you should move forward her in this. Instead of, oh, I mean, I guess she's dead in Acolyte, so whatever. Another great part was Cassandra Nova, played by Emma Corrin. I think she did a great job. I think it was a good villain. This is probably the best villain we've had since Thanos. I'm not lying when I say that. Best villain since Thanos. But the story, and that's what we're going to get into, does not serve the character well. There's a lot of flip-flopping, a lot of just coincidences that just so happen to happen so the story can happen. But I think Cassandra Nova is a great villain, and the body horror that they were able to show here was amazing. And I haven't actually read any Cassandra Nova comics. Of course, if there are any Cassandra Nova, Grant Morrison trades that I should pick up, I'm at Comic-Con, so let me know. I can also get them, of course, anytime. But let me know, because I'm really interested in seeing how body horror happens with that, and the way that she has to use her powers. She's not like Xavier. She's not like Charles. She can't just be across the room and do it. She has to actually physically touch them and get into their heads. So I do want to know how her powers work, because her powers are pretty cool. And so we have a good villain, but there's another villain, the TVA and Agent Paradox, who I kind of didn't care about. I think the TVA part is the weakest part of this. Once they get into the void per se, that is my favorite part of the movie. The beginning and the end is not my favorite part. The beginning basically rushes you to get to the void, and then that's when the meat of the movie actually happens with Cassandra Nova. And then the tail end with the timeline doodad. I mean, again, we have Deadpool always cracking jokes, always breaking the fourth wall. But he points out that what in the MacGuffin is this? But you're using a MacGuffin. It's like, okay, we're making fun of it, but we know we have it. Again, is Marvel doing this on purpose? Like, what is going on? So, the cameos. I think the cameos are, again, great. And why are they great? Because they mean something. It's not like in Deadpool 2 when, the cameos, the celebrity cameos, like Brad Pitt, he's dead, haha, he's dead, haha. These cameos is, spoilers again, Wesley Snipes as Blade, yay. Jennifer Garner as Elektra, and she's looking good, by the way. And then Channing Tatum as the ill-fated Gambit movie that I'm not sure who wanted it, but they do play around with that, and the Channing Tatum Gambit voice. Honestly, his character started growing on me. When he was doing the action scenes at the tail end of the movie, I was actually on board. Gambit's powers is pretty freaking crazy. And I forget that, because the cartoon only shows him one way, and then this movie shows him a completely different way, blowing apart bodies with his cards and his staff. So, I think the lowest out of the power levels is definitely Elektra in the final fight. I mean, she's like killing people with Psy, but whatever. And you got Blade tearing it up, of course. And he looks great. I like the older Blade. And he says at one point that he's always going to be the one and only Blade. And then Deadpool kind of looks at the camera, so sure. Again, those cameos, they meant something. They were a big part of the final act, or I guess the final act. There's like 16 different endings, which is another problem that Marvel has. There's the ending in the void, which is a climax to a certain point, and then there's another tail end with another climax. So the story kind of goes like this, and then down, and then this again. So because the real third act is the Deadpool core, which is all the other variants of Deadpools that are in the void, led by Lady Deadpool? I don't know, one of those things. In that part, the fight scene was cool in my opinion. I think the tracking shot was an amazing way to show these two characters just decimate an entire army of people. The jokes in the final act went a little bit too long with Nice Pool, or Kind Pool, I forgot his name too. The one with the top bun. I thought it was funny that he wasn't gonna heal. I thought that part was funny. But his character just went along too long for me. A lot of the stuff goes a little bit too long. A lot of the jokes go a little bit too long. It is tiring, and it's definitely a longer movie, and it felt longer, but mostly because, like I said, with the plot, the story, it leads you to this climax with Cassandra in the void. And so there's two different endings, kind of. And so you kind of get left off at the end, and then I was like, oh yeah, I totally forgot about the TVA and the time jammer wang bang danger. I totally forgot about that. I was very captivated in just those characters of the void and their story versus what's happening with the TVA. And what's happening with the TVA is, I heard this point from Chris Gore, it's true. It's not threatening. It's not anything. It is like watching your phone drain battery, because that's what the illustration of the timelines dying are. And I was curious why I didn't really, not that I didn't care, but that there wasn't any urgency. Like the timeline's dying and then he wants to cut it off, prune it even faster. So he's got this hickory dickory doodad that can do that because he doesn't want to wait around for 10,000 years or something like that. So Paradox 2, his humor fell flat. It felt way too forced. It felt like he was trying to keep up with Deadpool, and there's no way you can keep up with Deadpool. Why are you cracking these jokes? It was kind of not needed. It could have been, he's not a threat. He was not threatening to me. Cassandra Nova was the threat because she ended up coming out of the void, and then, but why didn't she come out of the void before? I just found out. She had Doctor Strange's sling ring, and she can use magic, but she never left the void before. Not until now. That's convenient. You guys know, if you've watched any of my reviews, I am all about storytelling. And while I had a fairly good time, I enjoyed seeing these characters from the Fox universe, from the other universes, from the New Line universe with Blade, all these universes that have fallen down. They nostalgia'd the 90s, 2000s kid out of me, but it is not going to save them from the problem that they have, which is story. They have a problem with storytelling. And with 5 writers on this, now, there was a strike, but with 5 writers on this one, I feel like you could have come up with something different. Something that could have had urgency again. And man, Vanessa again, Deadpool, like pining over her and losing her, it felt very much like when in Civil War they took away Pepper from Tony. Because why did you take away Pepper? Because we needed him to be this way for the story to work. And it happened off screen. I mean, at least they showed a flashback to it happening, but still, like, it felt very easy. I feel like there is a more creative way to have all this happen. And, you know, maybe I can write another Deadpool and Wolverine story. That'd be kind of fun. I just noticed I had this in my ears the whole time. Told you I've been up for a long time. If you like the humor, if you like the action, if you're a fan of the early 2000s, late 90s comic book movies, yeah, I can see you enjoying this movie. But as I said, we need to hold these guys and gals to the same degree that we hold all the other stories. So I will compare this to the Marvels. I will compare this to Doctor Strange Mom. You know, there is a lot of problems with this still. Now, Apparently it's making a buttload of money, so it looks like their gamble with that has paid off. I don't know the budget, so it's quite possible that this could be a profitable movie. And it looks like Hugh Jackman's going to be playing Wolverine for the next 60 million years. But I really do hope that Marvel doesn't learn the wrong lesson from this, because this will be, how many times have we seen this movie? We had the same exact thing with No Way Home. Think about it. This is the end of the Fox universe. From here on out, it's whatever. That one was the end of those Spider universes. Andrew Garfield's, Tobey Maguire's, maybe, who knows? There might be another Tobey Maguire movie or Andrew Garfield movie. But that was kind of like the lead up, the using of that nostalgia from those old properties to pull an emotion out of you. Same thing with this one. So they saw the success with No Way Home, and they pulled that into the X-Men universe in a funny Deadpool way. So really compare those two, because I think that is a really good reason why we're getting these two movies and how similar they are. They're playing off of the same nostalgia bait per se, and to get you emotional over something that happened in the past, not emotional to the story at hand. So let's talk about the story. Finally, we're here. It's 30 minutes in or something like that. Where does this lead the Marvel Universe at? So it's quite possible. I got very confused when Deadpool was interviewing with, did it say 616? I Want to Die. He said that he interviewed with the 616 Avengers with Jon Favreau or Happy Hogan. Happy Hogan's his name, not Jon Favreau. But then he goes back to his universe. It made me really confused. So if you could explain that for me, how is he in the 616, but then he goes back to his universe and they time jumped or timeline jumped? I don't. But then he talks to them about the Avengers and how they, I don't know. It's kind of confusing. Maybe he tried to be on the Avengers in 616, but he talks about how he destroyed his machine in the 616. So how do you get to the, I don't know. If you can explain that part to me, please do, because I am thoroughly confused, obviously. But in any regard, he loses Vanessa again, and then he starts losing his entire timeline because he feels like he's not doing anything that's worthwhile. So he loses Vanessa, but is it Vanessa? What the fuck? Yeah, it is Vanessa. So Kingpin's got a Vanessa and he's got a Vanessa. Vanessa's all around. So he loses her, and then he's recruited by the TVA to basically, why does he get recruited into the TVA? Man, I really don't remember why Paradox wants to bring him into the 616 timeline. Which again, confusing. If he wants to bring him into the 616 timeline, but he's already been to the 616 timeline. Was he in the 616 timeline when he had the interview with Happy Hogan? I'm so confused. So anyways, Deadpool does what Deadpool does. He ends up trying to save himself and his timeline, of course. And the funny part was he digs up Logan from the movie Logan, which is the anchor character of that timeline, the anchor person. And he actually finds out that Logan is indeed dead. So he then lashes out in anger, killing a bunch of TVA agents in really entertaining ways with that Wolverine body. But then he goes back to the TVA and he does some, of course, timeline jumping, looking at different Wolverines, which are great cameos. I actually looked at today the comic book of the one with him on the cross of the X. Really cool to see that imagery, and that book now is $80. Thanks, MCU. I know it's a famous book anyways, but yeah, deep cuts. Lots of deep cuts in here, including the cameo of Henry Cavill, which is, I think, one of the only cameos that really doesn't mean anything. It's just a funny cameo. And of course, him making fun of DC and Warner Brothers, but whatever. He ends up pulling supposedly the worst Logan out of all the timelines. He let his timeline and world down, and everybody knows it. And we learn later what he actually did, but he is a sad, sopped up Wolverine. And so now you have a good idea of what kind of characterization Logan's going to go on in this movie. He is a terrible Wolverine who needs to learn how to be good. And how is he good? He learns from the other Wolverines and the people who have interacted with those Wolverines to kind of build himself up again. So that part was kind of beautiful, but again, I wish I saw it. I wish I wasn't told it. I'm getting really tired of people telling me, at least with Doctor Strange Mom, we kind of saw what that Strange did in that universe to beat Thanos. That, not here. I would have really loved to see those cameos, or maybe even just like their back of their heads or something, and him doing something. It would have been more emotional. Yeah, it would have been more emotional. I get him confessing his sins to X-23 is supposed to be a big moment, but again, these characters don't know who each other are. She kind of implies that she knows who he is because all Logans have something within them, but I don't know. It feels like, again, they're using the nostalgia of an old movie to play on your heartstrings in here. Of course, another cameo is Chris Evans, skinny Chris Evans. Nice to see him in, I guess, natty form. He is a skinnier fella, and he plays Johnny Storm, which is quite hilarious to see another Fantastic Four member get utterly murdered in front of us. So first we had Reed Richards, who got turned into spaghetti, and now we have Johnny Storm, who got removed or relieved of his skin, but not without a little bit of time with him, which I appreciated. So there was a funny gag with Deadpool saying all these terrible things that supposedly Johnny Storm said, and he basically calls him a liar. He dies, and then at the very end, you see that there was a camera there the whole time. I thought that was a funny gag. So I did think that it was a good cameo, and it was a fun cameo. It definitely got the largest pop at the theater in San Diego. That Johnny Storm reveal when he says, "Say it." He's like, "Say it. Avengers," he goes, "Flame on," boom. That was cool. I'm like, whoa. That's the most that movies get out of me. I go, oh. And there was, I think, a little bit of a tease into the future of Marvel. The end credits scene doesn't say anything. Logan and Deadpool end up surviving, and I don't know where they are in their time. I think they're in their own timeline, and Paradox got thrown away. And we do see, I think it's B-15. Yeah, it's Hunter B-15. We actually see her, and it's kind of cool to see. I think I like her in this movie more than I like her in the Loki show. There's a little bit of humor that she has that is a little bit of humor, but not too much. And I actually dug that. I dug that a little bit more characterization than in Loki. But since after the end credits, it doesn't really lead you into the next movie, there was a little bit of a tidbit with Deadpool dying or something with Thor with a scar. What could that be? No idea. But he kept referencing it. He kept saying, what was Thor? And he keeps bringing up Thor. So I'm curious. But yeah, finally, I mean, we can kind of talk about the end if you want. It was kind of another not a beam battle, really, but another, like, I need to sacrifice myself. And they were playing, again, you can't make fun of the trope and then do the trope, to me. I get it, but you're doing the trope. You're doing it. So they did the Spock, they did the Kirk thing. Deadpool's trying to sacrifice himself for everybody, and then Wolverine ends up breaking down the door and then helping him. So it turns out that when you have two people who are in the middle of that and they're both healers, that you can survive it, I guess. So yay, they're alive still. And then a little thing of shawarma. Yeah. But again, it's playing off of the characters, it's playing off the nostalgia to pull at your heartstrings, to pull you through the plot, of which the plot, it works off of coincidence and luck more than anything. And I really do hope that Marvel learns a different lesson from this movie, but it's possible that they're just going to no way home it until the bitter end. And what do we got in store for Wolverine? Is Hugh Jackman going to be playing him in future Marvel projects? Do we have Secret Wars coming up? Is that scene that we saw with Thor and Deadpool a teaser of Secret Wars? Let me know down in the comments below your thoughts of the movie, your thoughts on Deadpool, and if you can figure out that Cassandra Nova trade for me, that'd be a great conversation to have with Grant Morrison. And yeah, I mean, that's basically my thoughts. I definitely need to see it again, but I hope that Marvel learns a different lesson than what I'm thinking they're going to learn, which is we need more jokes, we need more nostalgia, and not really care about the plot. So, but Cassandra Nova was a really cool villain, cool powers, and I think she did a great job. Now, I'm going to edit this, get some sleep, and tomorrow is Saturday. So Saturday with Comic-Con, hopefully get some really nice footage for you guys. But yeah, anyways, from San Diego Comic-Con, this has been Matt with Nerddom. And thanks for watching the review on Deadpool and Wolverine. If you liked the video, feel free to subscribe. Also, feel free to smash the like. It really does help out the channel. And again, let me know your thoughts.